I chose to provide an overview of the informal assessment technique that will typically be used every day in my classroom of fashion designers learning computer-aided design of fashion flats. This is outlined in the textbook as technique number 20, punctuated lectures. Using this technique with my learners would be a regular part of my daily lectures and is the most effective method of assessing their ability to comprehend a skill before moving on to the next one. This strategy consists of 5 steps. It follows the pattern of listen, stop, reflect, write, and give feedback. Students first learn to listen to the explanation and watch a demonstration of a small, easy-to-grasp skill or concept. Then the teacher stops the action, and for a few moments the students reflect on how the demonstration may have helped or hindered their understanding of the skill. They then reflect. In the case of this course, rather than writing, this reflection is done by practicing the skill on their own computers. Finally, the teacher reviews as many individuals' computers as they can for those students that just aren't getting it, and answers questions that come up as they have applied the skill. The students are more accurately able to ask questions because they have attempted the skill and therefore see the obstacles firsthand. They have a chance to immediately clear up any confusion before moving on to the next part of the lesson, which builds on the previous one. Here's a quick segment of how this type of lecture would play out. Okay, so now that you have drawn the first half of your t-shirt flat, the next step that we're going to complete is to reflect this image as a mirrored symmetrical side. So with symmetrical flat drawing, which is sort of 9 times out of 10 that you're drawing something, you want the 2 sides to look exactly the same. So one sleeve isn't longer than the other, or there's any inconsistencies with it. Because when you're sewing, everything should be identical because both sides of your body are the same size. Unless you're drawing some sort of like swoop neckline or something that's completely asymmetrical, but in that case you can still mirror the image and then just make edits accordingly. So to reflect the image, we're going to use the reflect tool. So the first thing that we're going to do is use the direct selection tool to draw a box around the entire first half of your t-shirt. And then Command C to copy, click off of what you've selected, and Command V to paste. You should get everything that you selected as a duplicate. And then you're going to hit the reflect tool, which is on the toolbar on the left, or the O on the keyboard. Just double click that. And then you want to make sure that all of your options in the reflect box are the same. So we don't want it to flip horizontally, that would be upside down, so vertically, and 90 degrees so that it's fully like right angle with the drawing that you've already created. And you can just preview that, make sure that it looks exactly like you want it to, hit OK, hit back onto your selection tool, and drag the image over. And just make sure, if you have to zoom in, that all the points are touching exactly. That looks a little off. And you can use the arrow keys on your keyboard as well, just to get like an exact, there we go. So they're touching perfectly. And make sure that you zoom in, because if you don't, sometimes it can be kind of hard to see. And there you have it. Now you have exactly a mirrored image and a full t-shirt. So you'll have 5 minutes, or 10 if you need it, to try that out. Use the t-shirt that you already have, make sure that nothing's locked, and copy and paste it. Use the reflect tool to reflect it vertically, and then drag the points together. And if you have any issues, just raise your hand and let me know. It is the best way to provide immediate feedback and makes it much easier to teach the next step knowing that the first skill is fully understood, rather than trying to review without knowing which part along the way the confusion began. This technique is described in the textbook by referring to students as self-monitoring listeners, and therefore more aware listeners, which I think makes a lot of sense. In my experience using it, because this type of instruction constantly introduces new concepts, this is the best way to confirm understanding of a skill before moving forward. The limitations are if a student is confused by a concept, it can keep you held up on one specific area for a long time during the lesson, which can throw off the flow of a lecture. Additionally, students might get frustrated or stuck on one small misunderstanding, and it could discourage them from moving forward. The advantages of this strategy are that it keeps the student engaged during the lecture and demonstration portion because they know that they will need to apply the skill immediately, and they can't have that "I'll worry about this later" mindset. It gives the student an excellent reason to attend their classes each week and focuses the learning on their own understanding of the skill, which is important for metacognition. Providing feedback for this strategy is done on the spot for immediate gratification of the student. They don't have to worry about asking after class or figuring it out when they're doing their homework. It is an ideal type of informal assessment because it gives the students the information and helps them figure out how well they understand it before they are formally assessed. It helps them know what areas they need to work on and how to do so. It does not mean that feedback on a concept can only be provided immediately after the demonstration. Skills can always be revisited, but that immediate satisfaction is only achieved by giving the feedback right away. The information on a student's understanding received from this strategy is helpful for ongoing lesson plan adjustments because it gives the teacher live updates of how well the students are intaking the information. Moving forward in the class, this information is incredibly valuable for deciding what areas to focus on when teaching, as well as areas that don't need as much further instruction because the students already understand it. This saves time, energy, and helps focus the lecture on what needs to be improved. Overall, the punctuated learning strategy is driven by the students. It's not just a cookie-cutter list of the teacher's plans to cover that day. It keeps the teacher adaptable and the learning fluid, so students don't just get stuck and give up. It is helpful for everyone involved, and it encourages informal assessment as a true method of helping the students understand a topic before moving forward.